Today we are at Shire Mont Retreat Center in Orkney Springs, Virginia. Behind me you will see buildings built in the early to mid-1800s as a hotel complex for people wishing to come to drink of the mineral waters in this area. These buildings now belong to the retreat center, which was formed in 1925 by Dr. Woodward and his wife. This complex then has been working for the last 75 years and is still managed by the same family. On Friday, October 1st, we celebrate the memorial of Saint Therese of Lisieux, the Little Flower. She lived in late 19th century France in the northwestern part of France. She entered the Carmelite monastery at the age of 15, where her older sister was already a Carmelite. She died of tuberculosis in 1923. When I first read her autobiography, I thought to myself, this reads like really bad Dickens. Very romantic, of course very Catholic, which Dickens was not, and very much of its era. And so I thought very little of it. As the years passed, and I gained more experience in the spiritual life, and I talked to my spiritual director about it, he encouraged me to read it again. And indeed I did, and I appreciated the Little Flower in a whole new way. At the time, I was in a very difficult work circumstance myself. I was boxed in on all sides by people opposing me, and I found that her little way was really the only way I could get through my workday. I could do those few things open to me, but I did them, and I tried to do them as she advises, with great love. I also found out later that it may well be that parts of her autobiography, especially the latter parts that treat her final illness, those parts may have been redacted by her sister, who outlived her, and the Mother Superior of their community, to take out parts that seemed to them to not be sufficiently pious for future readers. You see, she had tuberculosis and was dying of it. She was in great pain, and at some point, the pain that she was feeling and the reality that she was dying at the age of 23 came to her as an experience where the consolations of prayer were no longer available to her. The consolations of the Mass and the other sacraments were not available. She was left on her own, really, to struggle with this desperate circumstance she found herself in. And in that circumstance, she did persevere. She remained faithful. She was determined to remain faithful to Jesus. And so she did, and in that determination, she started to see herself in her imagination, of course, as one who was a great missionary, or a great prophet, or a great doctor, or a great a servant of the poor. So I found this new way of understanding her very, very fulfilling for myself. And I've since thought of her with far greater respect than I had in the past. What might Dr. Woodward and his wife and the Little Flower have to say to us? In both cases, in the case of Dr. Woodward and his wife, they were people of means, people of education, people of sophistication, people of spiritual faith, and they used their gifts productively in a way that benefited the people of their own time, as well as us up to the present day. The Little Flower, by contrast, had a very short life and seemingly little to offer. And yet here we are, 125 years later, honoring her for her spiritual maturity and her spiritual wisdom. It seems to me the conclusion is that God blesses each one of us with life, with gifts, with opportunities, and then asks us to use them as best we can, under the circumstances given to us. And we see that worked out in both in both cases, Dr. Woodward and his wife and the little flower. So we might all rejoice today in what the Lord's asked us to do, the opportunities and the gifts the Lord's given us, and see how productive we can be today, how faithful we can be today, that His will be done, and that our work may be of benefit to the people of our own day, and perhaps to the people of the future.